Hello everyone, by watching this video, you will learn how to work with various types of cell references in Microsoft Excel. So, cell references in Excel are divided into relative, mixed, and absolute. Let's start with relative references. In front of you is a table with 4 columns. I need to calculate the sales sum for each product. I place an equal sign in cell E38 and multiply the price by the quantity. To do this, I click on cell C38. Then put a multiplication sign and add cell D38. I press the Enter key. Alright, in the cells below, I need to perform a similar operation. However, I do not necessarily have to do this manually, since I can copy the formula by dragging the bottom right corner of cell E38 to the end of the table. Done. This is how relative references work. For clearer understanding, I will display the formulas. As you see, when copying, the formula maintains its structure. That is, it still performs the multiplication of the price by the quantity. But please note that the cell references shift downwards. This allows us to partially automate our work in Excel. This principle can be applied when copying both vertically and horizontally. I will display the formulas again so that you can once again see the action of relative references on a specific example. Now, let's summarize a bit. Relative references represent a simple and convenient tool when working with tables. Such cell references always shift after copying, while the structure of the formula is preserved. However, there are situations where we need to avoid the shift of references when copying a formula. In this case, absolute references are used. Pay attention to this table. It lists some products, each of which is produced and sold in 3 different configurations. Depending on the configuration, the price of the product will vary. Column C specifies the price of each product sold in the standard configuration. We need to calculate the prices in the remaining 2 columns. Here, the price of the next configuration is formed by adding a 20% markup to the cost of the preceding configuration. That is, to calculate the enhanced configuration, you need to add 20% to the standard one. Accordingly, to calculate the full configuration, the same markup needs to be added, but to the enhanced one. Moreover, we need to ensure that when the markup changes, the prices are automatically recalculated. In other words, the cells must be interconnected. So, I start calculating the price in column D. For this, I need to add 20% to the price in column C. After the equal sign, I open a parenthesis and click on cell C6. I put a multiplication sign and click on cell C1. I close the parenthesis. Then I indicate the plus sign, add cell C6, and press the Enter key. I got the correct result. If you change the markup percentage in cell C1, the price in cell D6 will be automatically adjusted according to the new markup. This is exactly what I need. However, it's too early to celebrate. Look what happens when I copy this formula to the remaining cells. It's immediately evident that a serious mistake was made in the calculations. To understand what's wrong, I enable the display of formulas. Look, for the calculations to be correct, I need to refer to cell C1 in all formulas, where the markup on the price is indicated. In cell D6, the formula calculated everything correctly because I indeed added the markup to the standard price. But upon copying, the formula shifted. For example, in cell E6, instead of referring to the cell with the markup, the program refers to an empty cell with the address D1, and so forth. To solve this problem, it's necessary to make the reference to cell C1 absolute. I will return to the standard display. and press the Ctrl+Z combination several times to undo the last actions in the program. Now, I double-click on cell D6. The formula editing mode opened. I position the cursor next to the reference to cell C1 and press the F4 key. Two dollar signs appeared in the formula, meaning the reference to cell C1 has now become absolute. That is, now when copying the formula, this reference will not shift. It is fixed on cell C1. Let's check how the formula behaves this time after copying. Super, goal achieved. In our formula, there is both a relative and an absolute reference simultaneously. Relative references shift when the formula is copied. But absolute ones stay in place, and thus, in all the formulas of my table, the program refers to the C1 link, which I made absolute. Right now, I want to show you one useful trick. It will help speed up your work in Excel. Holding the left mouse button, I select an empty area of the table where calculations need to be made. The area is selected. Now, I place an equal sign and enter the formula. You already know it, as we have just discussed it. The formula is entered, however, this time to obtain the result, instead of pressing the Enter key, I will press the Ctrl+Enter combination. Done. The entire selected range immediately filled with the formula, and I didn't have to copy it into the other cells myself. So, take note of this method. We have just discussed absolute and relative references with you. Now it's time to learn about mixed references. We will now create a multiplication table. Its rows and columns contain the multiplicands. And all other cells in the table represent the result of multiplying the corresponding multiplicands intersecting in one cell. For example, to find the product of the numbers 3 and 4, you need to find a cell in the multiplication table where the row with the number 3 and the column with the number 4 intersect. And vice versa. These cells will show the multiplication result, which is 12. And our task is to apply a single formula that will calculate all values in the table after being copied. So, I select the range and enter the formula. I multiply cell B5 by cell C4. Next, I need to ensure that when copying the formula to the adjacent cell D5, the reference shifts from C4 to D4. While the reference to cell B5 must remain static, we don't want it to move to the cell in the neighboring right column. But this is not the only condition. The fact is, we also need to prevent the reference from shifting from cell C4 to C5 when the formula is copied down. However, the shift of the reference from cell B5 to B6 is just what we need, and it must be done. Oh, I hope I managed to explain the task in clear language. If not, you'll understand soon. So, in the formula, I set the cursor next to the reference to cell B5 and press F4. You already know that it is an absolute reference, but in this situation, it won't help us. We need the reference to this cell to be able to shift along the rows while remaining static in relation to the columns. Therefore, I'll press the F4 key several more times. Pay attention, I've prepared a hint to make it easier for you to navigate the reference notations. Now, I've made the reference mixed, here's how it looks, and the hint indicates that with this arrangement of the dollar sign, we have an absolute column, meaning no shift along the columns, and a relative row. This means we allow movement along the rows. We have now looked at the first variant of a mixed reference. As for the second, it provides the opposite effect, according to which we have a relative column and an absolute row. This exact variant we need to apply to the reference to cell C4. I return to the formula, set the cursor next to the reference to C4, and press the F4 key twice. Do not forget about the hint to correctly place the dollar sign. and I finish the operation by pressing the enter combination. The multiplication table is ready. Thank you for your attention. If this video helped you, then please like it and subscribe to the channel to see even more useful lessons on Microsoft Excel. I wish you success and see you next time.